Hi, this is Dr. Amrita, and you're listening to the Doctor's Creative Diary podcast. Today I'm going to talk about 10 things writers worry about. Have you ever felt like you stopped doing something just when luck would be changing? Or maybe you escaped getting hurt because of a spur of the moment decision or a gut feeling? It's not stories which are difficult to write, it's the editing and final push you need to get the book out in the world. Sometimes I wonder how the greats like Rabindranath Tagore, Satyajit Ray, Enid Blyton, Agatha Christie were so prolific, interesting and lucid. And not to forget Earl Stanley Gardiner too. How did they edit their work? How did they get the stories out in the world? Books and authors, even when there are memoirs and autobiographies telling the full tales of tears and tribulations. Everyone says the third book is the most difficult. But for me, the fourth book in the Krishna Mishra series were creating trouble. It was almost done and I was still waiting for the final edits when I decided to share my thoughts about the writing doubts on my blog. So, what are the 10 things writers worry about? Writers worry about what to write. Writers worry about will it be right? Writers worry about how to write it on paper, on the phone, or on the laptop. Writers worry about whether anyone will read it or not. Writers also worry about whether they should let anyone read it before it's finished. Writers worry about how much money they can make from that story or from that non-fiction book. Writers also worry about how they will make the money. Writers worry whether they will make any money from it. Writers worry that if they don't make any money from it, should they stop writing? They also worry whether it will help anyone. Writers worry if they don't write and someone else gets their idea and it's a big hit like the HP series or the Ring trilogy, then what will happen? It's perfectly okay if you never worry about any of these and have your own pet set of worries to worry about. That's the best part about having a creative brain. You can worry creatively. Seriously, why have the same worry? It needs to be dealt with or discarded or maybe lend it to someone who really needs one. So when I tell you that writers worry about something, it's perfectly okay if you don't worry about them. Since I have already told you about the worries that affect writers, I will also share the powerful self-care secrets of optimists. Did you know immunity and optimism go hand in hand? Did you know optimistic people have a stronger immune system, and a strong immune system makes you happier, more positive, more creative? It's like positivity and good health go hand in hand. If you're healthy, you're happy. And when you are happy, it's easier to be healthy. A healthy and happy mind go hand in hand. If you are in India and while in the lockdown you were worried about whether you will sail through, I'm sure you dabbled in plenty of hobbies to keep your mind healthy and your mind happy too. In fact, anywhere in the world, if you were having hobbies during lockdown, chances are you came out, you survived. Today I'll share the 7 secrets that helps me stay healthy. These are the secrets I also share with my friends, families and my patients. Don't forget, will depend on your situation in life. Number 1 self-care secret of optimists is they never ever skip sleep. This is crucial. When you sleep less, your brain plays tricks on you and you worry more. So sleep on time and get up on time. Okay, maybe sleep for a little longer, but having those 8 hours of shut eye at night are important if you want to feel all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Optimists also drink plenty of water so that they stay healthier. Hydration is important to keep you feeling good, energetic and happy. It's also important for your morning nature calls. If your bowels are working fine, your mind will too. The gut health and happy mind are related, and I have proof. They eat simple and healthy meals. You don't need fancy food and elaborate meals. Simple is good for the body. It's also easier to digest and feel better when your body is not weighed down by excess calories. Nutrition and immunity are closely related. Optimistic people have quiet time by themselves. They meditate for at least 20 minutes every day. Having a very clear inner dialogue is important for you to be truly happy. Meditation improves our coping capacity. It helps you tap into your inner superpower. It's the best way to find the centering forces. Meditation and yoga have a lasting effect on lowering stress and boosting immunity. Optimistic people also make exercise a part of their life. You can walk, garden, run, or do freehand exercise and yoga to keep your body strong, supple, and healthy. Optimistic people also read a lot. Books help them stay happy, and they love learning new things every day. Books also help to keep your mind occupied, which will stop you from worrying about things not in your hand. Optimistic people have hobbies. You can start one today. You can write down your thoughts in a diary or start a blog. You don't have to spend money. You can start on WordPress for free. If you like it, then you never know. You can start a thankfulness journal. It takes 21 days to make a good habit stick, and this is as good a time as any. After you have written for 21 days and you find it helpful to put you in that flow state, then maybe invest in a good hosting and start your own self-hosted blog. We are all in this together, and the best way to survive healthily, happily is to remember to take one day at a time. You should stay positive and stay healthy. I have never heard of a happy negative person. Have you? For people who can't meditate, the process of creating art, writing, journaling helps them find flow. Mental health for artists doesn't just start with medicines. It starts with knowing what's happening inside you. If you have never thought you could write or paint, what I'm talking about might seem alien to you. But you have obviously doodled as a kid. When you want to get into the flow of things, you have to find the time to sit and reflect. You should think about why having a happy mind is important for your overall health. If you're a creative person, mental health is even more crucial. For me, dark, gloomy moods don't necessarily help me create better. In fact, I create best when I'm feeling happy and healthy. And when I am happy and healthy, I want to create more. While creating, I feel happier too. So it goes round and round, and it's a part of my entire hobby creative cycle. If you dig deep enough, everyone's family have history of some disease or the other. Mental health issues were a part of my growing up years. You can say mental diseases inspired me to become a doctor. But being a doctor in today's world is a challenge of another kind. When I talk about how I try to keep my mind healthy, I only share what works for me. Because though I'm a doctor, I'm not a mental health specialist. So if you feel you need help, consult a psychiatrist. A professional, not someone on social media. Just don't let it be too long. Some things are best done without overthinking, like painting and writing, asking for help. But for some others, like investing, cooking, studying for a career, need careful plans. A garden can be a mix of a plan and unplanned. So too a painting, right? Our life and our bodies are like the garden or the painting. It's as planned or unplanned as you want it to be. Like my husband likes to say, one rule cannot explain all things. One way cannot be for everyone or everything. Haggerty says there's only one rule of creativity. There are no rules. Only one way to break the blankness. Do something about it. Put down anything you can. Don't overthink about greater good, SEO, audience, traffic, etc. etc. They will come. Today is about survival of your creative spirit. Grab her. Give her a hug or kiss. I'm talking about the creative spirit. and tell her how much you appreciate the life she helps you live. Thank your creative spirit, because without creativity, things will get a little blah and meh. You will not one day wind up work and just retire. You will not one day have the perfect setup to work. You will not one day find the perfect group of people to hang out with. You will not suddenly start feeling healthier or happier. It's going to be one step at a time, and it's always the first step which takes the longest. Take the first step in whatever you do, and don't overthink it. Life gives you chances. What you do with those chances are your choices. Good or bad, both will matter. Don't think this is a sermon. If you're a blog follower, you know I don't manage to finish every challenge I start. If you're on my podcast subscriber list, you will know I miss posting my podcast every week. But if you have been following me anywhere on social media, you know that I have been doing this for a very long time, since 2014. So even when I am not able to tick all the boxes, I survived. Things appear to happen at their own pace. In 2022, I published 70 blog posts on my website. I published only one storybook fiction and one non-fiction which is free for download. I published one audiobook and recorded another. I painted and sketched several pictures. I came third in the Voice of Anchor challenge. It was India's first Voice of Anchor and it was a wonderful learning experience. I traveled to Goa, Sikkim, Taki, Coorg. I also recorded 36 episodes for this podcast, that is the Doctor's Creative Diary podcast, and 23 episodes for the Health Wealth Bridge podcast. That podcast incidentally crossed 100 episodes in 2022. The best thing about finding your own path is you are the creator. I also wanted to talk about how I created my first audiobook and how Voice of Anchor challenge helped me create that. I published my first fiction, Krishna Mishra and the Mysterious Movie Star, as a Kindle ebook in April of 2020. This was also the book I published as a series on my final podcast entries for the Voice of Anchor podcasting challenge in 2022. I came third in it, and that gave me the extra energy to finally get the audiobook published. You will find the free episodes from the audiobook reading on this podcast. Did I tell you? Recording was easier than I thought, but it can definitely test your patience. If you would like to listen to a short mystery story on Audible or any of your favorite audiobook platforms, search for it, or you can just listen to it on form on which you are listening to this podcast now. Book blurb for the Krishna Mishra and the Mysterious Movie Star. Krishna Mishra is an ex-army intelligence officer and has an MBBS under his belt. Then he specialized in forensic medicine and enrolled in the army. Nowadays, Krishna has his own detective agency. He often teams up with his wife Riya. She is his best friend, assistant, boss, and famous in her own right. When yesteryear film star Anurag Chatterjee gets involved with the case of misplaced luggage, he meets with Detective Krishna Mishra to solve the problem. It looks like a simple case until a brutal murder makes it a race against time to find the motive of a dangerous killer. Now for behind the scenes of recording this audiobook. I recorded and edited my audiobook in segments with Audacity, a professional microphone, and a mini home studio setup. Then I create a customized cover using Canva. You can check out the Canva site and you can create your own free ebook template. I used Authors Republic and Findaway Voice to record and distribute my audiobook on multiple platforms. So is making an audiobook easy? Not really, but it's not rocket science either. Making it good enough for publishing takes work because both platforms like Authors Republic and Findaway Voice reviews the audio files before distribution. Depending on each audiobook platform, the requirements may vary. Why did I want to publish an audiobook? There are 3 reasons. I wanted to sell my book direct. This is difficult with my ebooks since they are all enrolled in KDP Select. Joanna Penn, an author and a podcaster I admire, tells authors to diversify their income as far as possible. That makes sense down the line for non-ebook formats. I really wanted to try and see whether I could do it. I love finding simple ways of complex text stuff. It's a nice hobby to have. I wanted people who couldn't read or don't like to read to have access to the book if they wanted to. Most people like stories, right? I never thought I would write a mystery, but I did. I never thought I would dare to create a serialized audiobook, but I started it anyway. The pandemic taught me many lessons. Number one is you just never know. Growing up, I wanted to be a doctor and a teacher. I didn't know about a doctor's life or a doctor teacher's as a 6-year-old. I just knew doctors were in their clinic in the evening. That's when I visited my pediatrician, and teachers taught in the morning. My life was planned. I was going to be a teacher during the daytime and a doctor in the evening. What I always knew in the back of my mind was that I needed people to share what I knew, be it as a doctor or a teacher. Well, the universe does listen to your fondest wishes, and my dreams came true. But even though I became a doctor teacher and a practicing doctor, I became mom, and an unexpected thing happened. I wanted to put down roots, and what I was doing then, but I didn't know exactly how. Then started the story of my balcony garden, and almost at the same time, I started my blog. I was a doctor teacher, became a mom, a balcony gardener, a writer, podcaster, and a storyteller. This was in 2014 when I started. And even if I am not able to keep up with the challenges and rigorous benchmarks, I try to share what I know with honesty. I don't claim to know the shortcut to success, nor do I claim to be wildly successful in my author journey. What I can share is what works for me. Being a writer and publishing your work is a way of getting inside people's subconscious, getting inside their mind. It's legitimacy in its own way. If you want to speak to the future children of the world, write down what you say, and someday someone will hear you. What helped me could help you too. We are all storytellers in our own ways. Writing, after all, is storytelling. In the end, we all become stories. That's what Margaret Atwood said. If you have always wanted to write a story, write one today. If you always wanted to create an audiobook and didn't know how, don't worry. I serialize my short story as a podcast series so that it reaches those who can't read online text. Let there be no discrimination when it comes to the joy of reading and learning. Listening and learning too needs to be democratized. I started listening to the Smart Passive Income podcast by Pat Flynn in 2014, and my life changed forever. I started my own podcast in 2018 because I found Anchor. I simply could not afford a paid hosting for my podcast back then. Sometimes you're not sure how to do things. The research can make you feel overwhelmed. You will suffer from imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and more. The trick is to just start, just like you started reading and writing as a child. It's going to be difficult, but if you persist, I promise it's going to change your life forever. Writing, painting, gardening, and reading are my gateways to a calmer me. It's my creative life that sustains me when things go crazy. That's the reason I write. When you're sharing my podcast, remember, you're sharing my story too. That just might help someone. You were listening to Dr. Amrita on the Doctor's Creative Diary podcast. Give this podcast a follow and a rating on your favorite podcast listening show. Thank you.